Imagine working two jobs for years to finally buy your first home, only for your parents to demand you give it to your unemployed golden child sister. And when I refused, they didn't just guilt-trip me, they threatened me. What they didn't realize was that their threat would destroy everything. I'm a 32-year-old guy, and for as long as I can remember, I've been the black sheep of my family. My younger sister, 29, has always been the golden child. And I don't mean that lightly. I mean she could do absolutely no wrong. Growing up, she got everything. A brand new car at 16. Fully paid college tuition. Spring break trips. Designer clothes. Her own bedroom. I got lectures about earning things. When I turned 16, I bought my own car with money from a part-time job. It barely ran. When I asked about help with college, I was told they couldn't afford it. Somehow, they could afford hers. I moved out at 18. Worked 2 jobs. Went to community college. Transferred to a state school. Slept 4 hours a night some weeks. Ate ramen more times than I can count. Meanwhile, my sister was finding herself. And somehow, I was still the ungrateful one. I eventually got my degree in accounting. It wasn't glamorous, but it was stable. I climbed slowly. Promotions came. Raises came. Nothing insane. Just steady progress. About 18 months ago, I bought a modest 2-bedroom starter home in a decent neighborhood. Nothing flashy. But it was mine. I signed those papers alone. No cosigner. No parental help. Just years of discipline and sacrifice. I remember standing in the empty living room after closing and just breathing. It was quiet. It was peaceful. It felt earned. And that's why what happened next hit so hard. While I was building something stable, my sister bounced from job to job. Every employer was toxic. Every boss was intimidated. Every coworker was jealous. She never stayed anywhere longer than a year. But she didn't need to. My parents paid her rent. Her car. Her credit cards. Eventually, they co-signed on a beautiful 2-story home for her. And not just co-signed, they were making the mortgage payments too. $3,500 a month. For someone who couldn't afford my textbooks. I kept my distance. I didn't want drama. I didn't want comparisons. But the favoritism never stopped. Then one night, my mom called and asked me to come over for dinner. Her voice sounded tense. I almost didn't go. When I walked in, the atmosphere was strange. Too quiet. Too rehearsed. My dad looked tired. My mom looked anxious. My sister looked perfectly calm. We sat down, and after a few awkward minutes, my dad cleared his throat and said they were in financial trouble. He mentioned some kind of business complications. Vague explanations. Legal scrutiny. Debt. Then my mom dropped the real bomb. They needed my help. And by help, they meant they wanted me to trade houses with my sister. Yes. Trade. My modest home, fully in my name, for my sister's larger house, which still had a mortgage and apparently, legal complications attached. They said it would give her a fresh start. My mom actually tried to frame it like I'd be getting the better deal because her house was worth more. I genuinely laughed. I thought it was a joke. It wasn't. My dad started talking about family loyalty. About how I owed them for raising me. About how I was doing well and should share my success. My sister chimed in about how stressed she was and how my smaller house would be perfect for her. She said it like she was doing me a favor. That was the moment something clicked. This wasn't about fairness. This was about control. I reminded them they never helped me buy anything. That I paid my own way through life while they funded hers. My mom started crying. My dad started yelling. He called me selfish. Ungrateful. Difficult, like always. My sister said I was jealous of her. Jealous. Of someone who had never earned a thing. I stood up and said no. Absolutely not. And I walked out. My dad shouted that I was cutting myself off from the family. But I think deep down, I'd been cut off a long time ago. Within days, extended family started contacting me. Apparently, I was rich and refusing to help my homeless sister. I got texts calling me cold. Selfish. Heartless. No one asked for my side. That pot stung. But then something else started bothering me. Details my dad had casually mentioned about his side business. Because I'm an accountant. And certain numbers don't lie. Years ago, my dad had asked me to help with bookkeeping for a small LLC he'd started. I agreed briefly. It seemed harmless. But I kept copies of everything. Because that's what accountants do. Looking back at those records now, things didn't add up. Large transfers. Inconsistent invoicing. Payments that didn't match services. And during dinner, my dad had let something slip about federal attention. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just debt. This was fraud. Possibly money laundering. And suddenly, the house swap made sense. If their money was dirty, and my sister's mortgage had been paid with it, that house could be seized. If I took it, I'd be accepting a potentially compromised asset. Maybe even implicating myself. That realization scared me more than the family drama ever could. So I consulted a criminal defense attorney. Best decision I've ever made. He reviewed my documents quietly. Then he looked up and said, "You stopped helping years ago. That's good. If you hadn't, you might be considered involved." My stomach dropped. He explained that if I knowingly concealed fraud, it could jeopardize my CPA license. In other words, staying silent wasn't safe. Then my parents made their fatal mistake. I received a formal demand letter from their lawyer. It claimed that because I'd performed accounting work, I was obligated to maintain confidentiality. They demanded I return all documentation. And they threatened to report me to the state board if I disclosed anything. They tried to intimidate me. My attorney almost laughed. He explained that confidentiality does not protect criminal activity. In fact, their letter proved they knew they were in trouble. So we responded. We stated I would comply with all legal and ethical obligations, including cooperating with authorities. And yes, we forwarded documentation to the appropriate agencies. Not out of revenge. Out of self-protection. The investigation accelerated. Turns out, my dad's small LLC was a shell company used for fake invoicing and laundering money. 7 figures had moved through it. My parents were arrested. Charged with money laundering, tax evasion, conspiracy. My dad got 5 years. My mom got 2. And my sister? She lost the house. Lost the car. Lost the credit cards. The entire structure holding her life up collapsed overnight. A week after sentencing, my sister showed up at my door. She looked different. Smaller. She asked to stay with us. Just temporarily. My wife and I had already discussed this. The answer was no. I told her I was sorry for her situation. But I wasn't responsible for it. She said I destroyed the family. I told her the family destroyed itself. She said our parents were in prison because of me. I corrected her. They're in prison because they committed crimes. She stood there for a long moment, like she was waiting for me to change my mind. I didn't. I closed the door. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like the black sheep. I felt free. Sometimes people confuse boundaries with betrayal. Family loyalty doesn't mean sacrificing your stability for someone else's irresponsibility. And protecting yourself isn't revenge. It's survival. So tell me, would you have traded houses? Would you have stayed silent? Or would you have done exactly what I did? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to like and subscribe. Because sometimes, the golden child doesn't win.